All right, hi everybody. So today we're going to start talking about viruses. So you will want to make sure that you have your notes that you picked up today. Okay, you can fold them and glue them into your notebook. All right, you're going to be taking a little bit of notes today, but for the most part, I feel like it's like just cutting off my head there. There we go. Okay, for the most part today, you're going to be listening and writing in a little bit of notes. So far, you should have listened to the introduction video, which is about 4 minutes, and this one will be about 4 minutes as well. Okay, we're going to start talking about viruses. Now, what you need to know about viruses, here's a picture. This picture online is of viruses. It's just kind of cartoon pictures, but they do have these weird, strange shapes, okay? The outside of them is basically protein, and the inside is DNA or RNA, okay? So it's a type of nucleic acid, DNA or RNA. The viruses are not considered alive. So I know we talked about classification of living things. This is kind of an exception to the rule. Viruses are not considered alive for a number of reasons. One, they're not made up of cells. And if you remember back to the cell theory, all living things are made up of cells. Well, if a virus is not made up of cells, then technically it's not alive. Okay? So, two, they can't grow or reproduce on their own. They must do that inside another living cell. So we're going to talk about in direct today how viruses reproduce. So if you are absent, make sure you listen to that clip as well, okay, in the direct station. And finally, viruses can be crystallized for years. So if the person's seated at this table before you got here, so let's say in earlier periods, snotted all over the desk, yeah, that virus could still be there. Okay, so they can stay crystallized and just kind of hang out until a host, you being the host, comes along. And I'm going to use this term host and parasite kind of interchangeably. Parasite is something that harms you, right? Like a mosquito would be a parasite, a leech would be a parasite, and you would be the host. Okay, so you are the host to the virus being the parasite. So you'll hear me talk about those terms. All right, so we're on your note sheet now. We've already gone over the top, okay? Now we're going to look at this guy right here, all right? He is a bacteriophage, okay? So as the introductory video said, all living things are affected by viruses. It doesn't matter if it's bacteria, fungus, protist, plant, animal, they're all affected by viruses. This bacteriophage has two different parts, a head and a tail, but I'm not so concerned that you know that. Instead, I want you to know these three parts, and you're going to write them down, okay? Number one, inside, so find the number one on your paper. Inside is DNA, so that's the nucleic acid. So remember, it's either DNA or RNA. In this case, bacteriophages have DNA, okay? Number two is the capsid, okay? That's the outside protein coating, okay? So this virus has protein and DNA. That's it. There's no cytoplasm, there's no mitochondria, nothing like that. Remember, it's not a cell. So it is a protein coat. Inside is the DNA. So protein on the outside, DNA on the inside. Finally, our tail fibers, and that is what the bacteriophage, this virus, uses to attach to the bacteria cell. That's how it knows it has the right host, okay? So if this bacteriophage came in contact with you, it wouldn't do anything to you, to your cells, because these tail fibers don't match up to our cells. If you remember back when we talked about the different proteins on the cells, and I said certain cells like your blood cells have certain flags on them, they're either A flags or B flags, well those are the proteins on the cell. And so if the tail fibers match up, like a lock and a key, to your cell's flags, then it will attack that cell. That's how it knows what cell to attack. So if you have like the flu virus, which we're going to look at here in a second, that knows to attack the lungs and the lining of the throat. Okay. If you have the stomach virus, that knows to attack the stomach, and that's because these proteins on the bottom match up with your cells. Okay. We'll get into more of that in direct today. All right, the next virus is the influenza virus. So you want to have your notes again. And we are looking at this guy here. And again, we're going to copy down some information on there. Okay, so the three different parts that I want you to copy down. Number one, this is an RNA virus, and we'll talk about that RNA viruses are actually really hard to cure or beat, and that's because they change and they can mutate, and we'll talk about that tomorrow. But RNA viruses, like the influenza, AIDS, HIV, those are all RNA viruses, and they're really hard to beat. On the outside is a capsid, and so that's a protein coat again. And then these are the protein spikes. And again, that's how this flu virus knows to attack the throat cells. It's because those protein spikes match up. Okay? When we're naming a virus, like it says on your paper, when we're naming a virus, we name them with usually what they affect. So chicken pox, right, causes chicken pox, the disease, right? But sometimes they're named after who found them and so on and so forth, okay? But that's about it for now. They don't necessarily follow a scientific naming, binomial nomenclature, but we'll get into that a little later on how we name them, okay? So like rabies virus attack, causes rabies, causes the disease rabies. Smallpox causes smallpox. So we'll talk about all these different viruses in a little bit, all right? So you should have the front of your sheet filled out. If you missed anything, please rewind and watch again. Thank you.